And now we present Miracle on 34th Street. Cast, would you take your places?
You want me to go first or you go first? Through the plants. We're going to go on the other side of the flowers. We're going to try to fit there because there's feet. Ready? Not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet.
Good evening. This evening, Monarch Radio is pleased to present its recreation of the original 1948 broadcast of Miracle on 34th Street, a comedy-drama episode of the weekly The Lux Radio Theater. The Lux series debuted in 1933 on the NBC Blue Network, a national network of radio stations which, in its early years, was known for children's programs. The Lux episodes featured a variety of actors, many of whom played in the original Broadway play that was being aired. In its heyday, Lux was viewed as one of the most popular radio networks or shows on the air. Lux transitioned to CBS in 1935, where it remained for 20 years, before moving back to NBC, when production moved from New York City to Hollywood in 1936, with Cecil B. DeMille as its host until 1945. Its emphasis shifted from Broadway to the screen. In these later years, introduction from the show's producer, Keeley, with the phrases, "Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen." The original radio broadcast of Miracle on 34th Street aired on December 20th, 1948, featuring Edmund Gwen as Kris Kringle, Maureen O'Hara as Doris Walker, and John Payne as Fred Gailey, who all starred in the original 1947 20th Century Fox screenplay. Natalie Wood played the role of Susan, Doris Walker's daughter, in the film, but did not participate in the radio play. The screenplay, which was based on a story by Valentine Davies, won several Academy Awards, including Edmund Gwen for the Best Supporting Actor. Now, as stated at the time in the New York Times, this play is for all those blasé skeptics who do not believe in Santa Claus.
Hurry, Susan. Hurry, Natalie. We're late. We need to find our seats.
What's going on, Patty? What are those people doing on stage?
Well, they're doing a radio show.
A radio show?
Mm-hmm. Before there was the internet and iPads and no television.
No television?
Yes, there was such a time. And actors got together and performed stories for people to listen to on their radios. Now, most people, like the one in your car. Yeah, and most people listen to them in their homes.
Well, what are those people doing here?
Actually, sometimes people went to the studio to watch the actors perform their stories.
Sounds like fun.
Well, I think we could be part of it. I heard they're looking for a couple of actors to play the mother and daughter. Are you game?
Let's do it.
Okay.
What's she doing there?
Oh, that's the soundboard. Now, she makes all the sounds so the audience can really imagine the story. And these are all the actors. And they're going to perform the story tonight.
Okay, so who am I?
Well, you are my daughter, Susan, and I am Doris. And this is...
Dun, 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 dun.
Monarch Radio is pleased to present its recreation of the Miracle on 34th Street. Lux presents Hollywood.
Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Our Christmas present to you is the new Christmas classic of our time, Miracle on 34th Street. It's wrapped in a gay covering of laughter, tied with a bright ribbon of good humor, and decorated with 3 sparkling stars of the 20th Century Fox picture. This is a wonderful story for the whole family. And tonight, perhaps some families may be gathered around a Christmas tree as they listen. Others will be putting up this happy sign of the holiday season in a few days with lights and ornaments and shining snow. But right now, it's curtain time for the play that proves there is a Santa Claus. It's Thanksgiving Day in New York. On a broad avenue adjoining Central Park, an annual event is being joyfully awaited. The spectacular parade, presented by Macy's department store to herald in the Christmas season. Away from the crowd are 2 of Macy's public relations experts.
He's simply wonderful, Miss Walker. Just look at him on that float, the most realistic Santa Claus we've ever had. Why, he didn't even need any padding, did he?
Patty?
Why, didn't you notice his tummy? So firm, so round, so fully packed. Well, that's everything under control. Where on earth did you find him?
I don't know. I just turned around and there he was.
He replaced that man who was drunk as a skunk.
With a breath that would knock over a reindeer.
Oh, just think of if Mr. Macy had seen him.
What if Mr. Gimble had seen him? Competition between our stores is tough enough.
Well, the parade's starting. Let's stand at the curb.
Not I, Mr. Shellhammer. I'm going home to relax. Anyway, I can see it from there. I live just around the corner.
Oh, so you do. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Miss Walker. And congratulations on finding the best Santa Claus in Macy's history.
Certainly is a wonderful parade, Susan. Just look at that clown. Gosh, what a giant.
Giant, Mr. Gailey? There are no such things as giants.
Well, not now, maybe. But in the olden days, there...
Really, Mr. Gailey? You're a lawyer.
Well, what about the giant that Jack killed? You know, Jack and the Beanstalk.
Everybody knows that's a fairy tale, and I agree with my mother. Fairy tales are silly.
Come in.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan's mother. My maid said that she...
Oh, hello, Mother. Oh, hello, Mother. I'm watching the parade. Mr. Gailey invited me.
Hello, darling. Susie's told me quite a lot about you, Mr. Daly.
And she's told me quite a lot about you as well, Mrs. Walker.
You are the man in the front apartment.
Well, this is all part of a plot, Mrs. Walker. I'm very fond of Susie. But I also wanted to meet you.
Well, at least you're frank.
There goes Santa Claus.
Oh, don't even mention that name.
Why not, Mother?
Well, that Santa Claus, you see, is a last-minute substitute.
But why?
Oh, remember the way the janitor was last New Year's?
Oh, my, tight as an owl.
I see Susan doesn't believe in Santa Claus either.
That's right, she never has.
Well, that's the end of the parade. Mother, I've been thinking, it's Thanksgiving and there's only 2 of us. Couldn't we invite Mr. Gailey?
Well,
Please, don't bother. I'll just have a sandwich or something.
But we have such a big turkey. Please, Mother, please.
Well,
Did I ask her all right, Mr. Gailey?
Susie.
You asked fine, Susan. Dinner's at 3, Mr. Gailey.
Hello, Mrs. Walker?
Oh, yes, Mr. Shellhammer?
Your maid said you were Thanksgiving dinner, but I just had to tell you, Santa Claus was stupendous.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Macy himself wants him to be our toy department Santa Claus.
Oh, fine. Can you hire him?
Well, I already have. Oh, he's a born salesman. I can just feel it.
Oh, good. Well, we'll talk about it in the morning. Thanks for calling, Mr. Shellhammer.
Oh, thank you, Frida. Thank you. Good morning, Santa Claus.
Good morning.
Now, before you go to the toy department, here's a list of toys that we have to push.
Oh?
Well, you know, things we're overstocked on. Now, you'll find a great many children will be undecided as to who they want and what they want for Christmas. And when that happens, you immediately suggest one of these items. Do you understand?
Oh, I certainly do.
Fine, that's fine. Now take the list, and Frida here will show you to your throne in the toy department. And don't you forget, you're working for Macy's.
Why, of course I am. What do you want for Christmas?
I want a fire engine with a real hose. One that squirts real wet and water. And I won't do it in the house. I'll only do it in the backyard.
And I promise you, you'll get your fire engine.
You see, Mom? I told you. You wait here with me.
Yes, madam?
What's the matter with you?
Now. What's the trouble?
I told you before, didn't I? The kid wants a fire engine, but there isn't one to be had anywhere in town. Macy's ain't got any. Gimbel's ain't got any. Nobody's got any. Might be to killing me. And you say, okay, he gets the fire engine.
But you can get those fire engines at Schoenfeld's, Lexington Avenue. Only $4.50. A wonderful bargain.
Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Hey, I don't get it.
Oh, I follow the toy market very closely.
Macy's sending people to other stores?
Yes.
Are you kidding?
Well, no. The one important thing is to make the children happy. Whether Macy's or some other store sells the toys, doesn't matter. Don't you feel that way?
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure. Only I didn't know Macy's did. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Who's next, please? Right this way to see Santa Claus. All right, little girl, you're next.
Of course, little girl. And you'd like some roller skates. Well, you shall have those, too.
Mama, he's gonna bring me some roller skates.
And he has some fine skates here at Macy's, haven't you, Santa Claus?
Oh, they're good skates, all right. But not quite as good as those at Gimbel's. They're really wonderful skates. And I'm sure that it'll be very nice for this good little girl. Very good.
Mr. Shellhammer. Are you Mr. Shellhammer?
Gimbals? Did he just say Gimbals? Is that what he said?
The sales lady said I should speak to you.
Gimbals!
I just wanted to congratulate you and Macy's on this wonderful new stunt you're pulling.
Gimbals!
Imagine a big outfit like Macy's putting the spirit of Christmas ahead of the commercial.
Gimbals!
From now on, I'm going to be a regular Macy's customer. All right, Mortimer, we're going.
Gimbals!
And there's the toy department over there, Mr. Gailey.
You certainly know the Macy's store, don't you, Susan?
Well, that's because my mother works here. But I still think it's silly, bringing me here to see Santa Claus.
Well, I just feel that when you've talked to him, you might...
Okay, Mr. Gailey, I'm certainly willing to try.
Well, what a fine young lady, eh? What's your name, little girl?
Susan Walker, what's yours?
Mine? Kris Kringle. I'm Santa Claus. Oh, you don't believe me, eh?
You see, my mother's Mrs. Walker.
Oh.
But I must say you're the best-looking Santa Claus I've ever seen.
Really?
Your beard, for instance. It doesn't have one of those things that goes over your ears.
That's because it's real. Just like I'm really Santa Claus. Now go ahead and pull it.
Oh, my goodness, it is real.
Oh, yes, yeah. And now what would you like me to bring you for Christmas?
Nothing, thank you. Whatever I want, my mother will get, if it's sensible and doesn't cost too much.
Oh.
That's quite right, Susan.
Oh, hello, Mother.
Hello, Mr. Gailey.
Hello. The explanation for this is really very simple. You know, your maid's mother sprained her ankle. She had to go home, so she asked me to bring Susie down to you. And as long as we were here, I figured we might as well say hello to Santa Claus.
He has real whiskers, Mother.
Susan, would you mind standing over there a minute, darling?
If you want me to.
I shouldn't have brought Susie to see Santa. Is that it?
Now you're making me feel completely heartless.
I'm sorry.
You see, I tell Susan that Santa Claus is a myth, and you show her a very convincing old man with real whiskers. Whom is she to believe?
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
When Susan was a baby, her father and I were divorced. And ever since then, I protected my child by teaching her realities. If you don't believe in fairy tales and fantasy, you can never be hurt or disillusioned.
We were talking about Susie, Mrs. Walker.
And I must ask you to let me raise her as I see fit. All right, Susan, dear, the store's going to close soon. We'll run along to my office.
Frida said you wanted to see me, Mrs. Walker.
Oh, yes, come in. I'd be grateful if you'll please tell Susan you're not really Santa Claus, that there actually is no such person.
Oh, but Mrs. Walker, not only is there such a person, but I'm here to prove it.
No. You misunderstand. I want you to tell her the truth. Now, what's your real name?
Kris Kringle, and I always tell the truth. Susan, I'll bet you're in the 3rd grade.
4th grade.
I mean your real name.
Well, that is my real name. My goodness, the 4th grade?
Well, very well. I have your employment card right here, and I'll look it up on that.
That's a very cute dress you have on, Susan.
It's from Macy's. We get 10% off.
Oh.
So, you always tell the truth, do you? Look at your employment card.
Okay. Name, Kris Kringle. Address, Brooks Memorial Home, Great Neck, Long Island. You may call the home if you'd care to confirm that, Mrs. Walker. It's a home for elderly gentlemen.
Would you also like me to confirm this?
What's that?
Date of birth. As old as my tongue and a little bit older than my teeth. Place of birth. The North Pole. Now, really.
Why, I believe you doubt me, Mrs. Walker.
And this tops everything. Next of kin.
Oh, that.
Oh, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. I'm sorry to have to do this, Mr.
Kringle.
But the Santa Claus that we had 2 years ago is back in town, and I think that we owe it to him to maybe hire him again.
Have I done something wrong?
No, it's just that we feel... excuse me. Hello?
This is Schellheimer, Mrs. Walker. Drop whatever you're doing. Mr. Macy wants to see us immediately.
Oh, well, I'll be right up. I'm afraid I'll have to be very abrupt with you. I have to go see Mr. Macy. You'll be paid for the full week, Mr. Kringle, and I'll send your check to that address.
Oh, come right in, Mrs. Walker, Mr. Schellhammer.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Macy.
Now, about this new policy you two cooked up. Macy's Santa Claus sending customers to Gimbel's.
But I can explain everything, Mr. Macy.
You don't have to explain a thing. Just look at my desk. 42 telegrams and over 500 phone calls. Grateful parents expressing undying gratitude to Macy's department store.
Why, you don't say?
And from now on, not only will our Santa Claus continue in this manner, but every salesperson in the store.
You mean that if we haven't got what the customer asks for, we're to
send him where he can get it. No high pressuring and forcing a customer to take something he doesn't really want.
I think that's wonderful, Mr. Macy.
Why, it will be known as the helpful place, the friendly place, the place that puts public service ahead of profits, and consequently will make more profits than ever before. As for you, Mrs. Walker, Mr. Shellhammer, you'll find a more practical expression of my gratitude in your Christmas envelopes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, yes.
And tell that wonderful Santa Claus I won't forget him either. As a matter of fact, I'll tell him myself in the morning.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Macy.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Macy.
And thank you again, sir. Oh, imagine a bonus.
Yes.
And well, what's the matter with you?
Mr. Shellhammer, I fired him.
Who?
Santa Claus.
Oh, no. You couldn't do that.
Oh, but I did. He's crazy, Mr. Shellhammer. He really thinks he is Santa Claus.
I don't care if he thinks he's Mickey Mouse. I don't care if he thinks he's the Easter Bunny. Find him.
It was a frantic few hours that Doris spent last night rushing out to the Brooks Memorial Home in Long Island and assuring Kris Kringle that Macy's wanted him back as Santa Claus. Now, Kris is again presiding over the crowded toy department, while in her office, Doris and Mr. Shellhammer...
Don't you understand, Mr. Shellhammer? That old man with the nice white whiskers insists that he is Santa Claus. Why, he's out of his mind. What if he should have a fit or something? I really should tell Mr. Macy.
Oh, yes, but maybe he's only a little crazy. Anyway, you can't be sure until he's examined. We'll send him over to Mr. Sawyer.
Sawyer?
Yeah, in personnel. He's paid to examine employees, isn't he? And now, by the way, what do you think of this?
What is it?
A full-page ad Macy's is running in tomorrow's newspapers.
Macy's is running it? But it's all about other stores, Gimbels and Saks.
I know. Mr. Macy's idea to help our customers find what they want. Oh, it's revolting, isn't it?
Well, that Santa Claus certainly has started something. Oh, well, I'll get a hold of him at his lunch hour and send him up to Mr. Sawyer.
So I changed my clothes, Mr. Sawyer, and came right up.
Oh, well, then, that's your own beard, huh?
Oh, yes.
Interesting complex in back of that. Why do you carry a cane?
Always carry a cane, Mr. Sawyer. That is when I'm in my street clothes.
Huh?
I carved this cane out of a runner from one of my old sleighs.
What's that?
With a fine, solid silver top.
Who was the first president of the United States?
What? Oh, give me a difficult one. Like who was the vice president under James Madison?
I'm conducting this examination.
The answer is Donald D. Thompson.
Oh!
You're a rather nervous man, aren't you, Mr. Sawyer? Tell me, do you get enough sleep?
My personal habits are no concern of yours. Now, what hand am I holding up?
Right hand.
How many fingers do you see?
3. Oh, dear. You bite your nails.
Stand up now. Feet together, arms extended.
Muscular coordination test. I've taken dozens of these tests. Mr. Sawyer, are you happy at home?
What? That will be all, Mr. Kringle. The examination is over.
Thank you.
And it may interest you to know I've been happily married for 22 years. Very happily married.
Delighted to hear it. Goodbye, Mr. Sawyer.
Miss Prong?
Yes, sir.
Get Mrs. Walker on the phone.
Yes, sir. But your wife, Mr. Sawyer, she's called 4 times already.
Well, you tell that big fat wife of mine to shut up and mind her own business.
Here's Mrs. Walker, sir.
Oh, all right. Hello?
Oh, I was just going to call you, Mr. Sawyer.
Oh?
There's a Dr. Pierce stopping by this afternoon at 3.
Who's Dr. Pierce?
Well, she's the physician at the Brooks home. I thought we might discuss Mr. Kringle's case with her.
Well, there's hardly any point in discussing it. Mrs. Walker, obviously, the old man should be discharged. No, Dr. Pierce. Kringle should be dismissed immediately and sent to a mental institution.
Oh, now, just a moment, Mr. Sawyer.
Oh, he's deluded, saying that he's Santa Claus.
It's a delusion for good. I found he only wants to be friendly and helpful.
Oh, his whole manner suggests aggressiveness. Look at the way he carries that cane, Mrs. Walker. Naturally, I can't discharge that loony. So when he exhibits those maniacal tendencies, please realize the responsibility is completely yours.
Well, I'm right back where I started.
Mrs. Walker, I assure you, Kris Kringle has no maniacal tendencies.
But if there's the slightest possibility of his causing trouble...
What trouble?
Well, all that needs to happen is a policeman asks his name, Kris Kringle, clang, clang, and Macy Santa Claus lines up in this psychopathic ward.
Well, you can prevent that very simply. Now, there must be someone here at the store who would rent him a room. Then they could both come to work together. I'd just as soon he avoided the long train ride to Long Island anyway.
You mean sort of take custody of him?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Mr. Kringle would agree to that?
Oh, I'm sure he'll agree.
Oh. Well, in that case, now let me see. Who do I know who could rent him a room?
I'm glad you're going to have dinner with us, Mr. Kringle.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
I'm also very glad you're going to live next door with Mr. Gailey.
Oh, why?
Because you're nice to talk to.
Well, I say, he's a fine young man, that Mr. Gailey is. Eh? Just think, allowing me to share his apartment. A total stranger.
He did it because Mother hinted to him.
Oh? Well, anyway, I'm very grateful.
Shall I tell you what I did in school today?
Oh, by all means. Any games?
Yes, and a very silly game, too.
They played oh?
They played zoo, and each child was supposed to be an animal.
Oh, but Susan, they were just pretending.
But that's what makes the game so silly.
Oh, well, of course, in order to play games, you need imagination.
Oh, that's when you see things, but they're not really there, huh?
Well, yes, but you know, to me, imagination is a place all by itself. Now, you've heard of the French nation.
Mm-hmm.
And the British nation.
Yes.
Well, this is the imagination. A very interesting place, too. Now, how would you like to be able to make snowballs in the summer?
What?
Or be the Statue of Liberty in the morning and fly south with a flock of geese in the afternoon?
Well, I'm quite sure I like it, but...
Oh, it's very simple, really, really. Well, anyway, look here. The next time they play zoo, you can be a monkey.
But I don't know how to be a monkey.
Don't you? Oh, I'll show you. Now, first you bend over, like that. Hang your arms loose.
Like this?
Yeah, that's fine. Now put your hand over here and start scratching. That's it. That's excellent, Susan. That's as fine a bit of scratching as I've ever seen. Now you start chattering.
Chattering?
Yes. Now, listen. See? And keep scratching. Now then, look here. We'll do it together. See? Chatter and scratch. Scratch and chatter. That's fine, Susan. Fine. You're doing beautifully. Beautifully. Susan, are you still awake?
Uh-huh.
I'm just coming to say good night, Susan. That's all. Now look here, about Christmas. There must be something you'd like for Christmas.
Well, I've certainly thought about something, Mr. Kringle.
You have? Well, what is it, eh? Tell me.
It's right here on my night table, see?
Oh!
I tore this page out of a magazine. It's a picture of a house.
Oh ho! That's what you want, is it? A doll's house, colonial architecture.
No, not a doll's house. A real house.
A real house?
Yes, and if you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me.
Now, wait a minute, Susie. What could you possibly do with a big house?
Live in it with my mother, and a backyard with a big tree to put a swing on, and a garden, and a... Oh, well, why even discuss it?
Susie, could I keep this picture just in case?
I guess so.
Thank you, dear, thank you. Well, Mr. Gailey's waiting for me. Good night, monkey.
Good night, Mr. Kringle.
Take whichever bed you want, Mr. Kringle.
You're very kind, really. Tell me, Mr. Gailey, what is it you do for a living?
Oh, I'm a lawyer. Hayslip, Sherman, and McKenzie.
Oh, and you like living here in the city?
Well, it's convenient. But someday, I'd like to get a place on Long Island.
Huh.
Not a big house. Just one of those junior partner deals around Manhasset.
Oh, one of those little colonial houses, eh?
Yeah, a little colonial house would be swell.
Good. Yes, you're quite fond of Mrs. Walker, aren't you?
A lot of good it does me. She lives in a cast iron shell that's just a little difficult to penetrate.
Oh, well, you must try a little harder, Mr. Gailey. You know, Mrs. Walker and that child are a couple of lost souls. It's up to us to help them.
Oh?
Yes, she... Oh, well. Shall I turn out the light?
No.
No?
I'm not going to be cheated out of this. All my life I've wondered about it, and now I'm going to find out. Tell me, does Santa Claus sleep with his whiskers outside or inside the covers?
Oh, outside, of course. Outside by all means. The cold air makes them grow.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much.
Oh, come in, Mrs. Walker, come in.
Thank you, Mr. Macy. I've just heard something very exciting.
You have? Well, let me tell you something very exciting first. Our policy of being kind to customers has tripled our sales. Now, what do you think of that?
Well, that's wonderful, Mr. Macy. And Gimbals thinks it's wonderful, too.
Gimbals?
Gimbals are adopting the same policy.
They are?
It gives me an idea. As long as Gimbals are doing the same thing, why not some pictures for the newspaper?
Pictures?
Yes, you and Mr. Gimbal shaking hands.
Shaking hands? R.H. Macy and Gimbal?
Well, yes.
Yes, why not? With Santa Claus in the pictures. It's a great idea, Mrs. Walker. Macy and Gimbal shaking hands? Okay, that's enough, ladies and gentlemen. Break it up. Thank you. Well, Mr. Gimbal?
Oh, come on, R.H. Now we'll go over to my store and get some really good pictures.
Oh, just a minute. I have something here for Santa Claus. Here you are, Mr. Kringle, a check in appreciation for all you've done.
Why, Mr. Macy, that's most kind of you.
I didn't think you were that generous, R.H. That's quite a check. What are you going to do with it, Mr. Kringle?
Well, I have a friend, Dr. Pierce. She needs a new X-ray machine.
Buy the machine through the store. 10% discount.
10%? Nonsense. Come over to Gimbals, and we'll give it to you for cost.
Oh, keep it up, gentlemen. Keep it up. My good friend will have a whole new hospital.
How did the pictures turn out, Mr. Kringle?
Oh, fine, Frida, fine. How about a game of checkers during lunch, eh?
Oh, no, not today, Chris. I don't feel so good.
Oh? What's the matter, Frida?
Oh, nothing, except, well, you remember I was telling you about how I like to play Santa Claus over at the Y and give out packages to the kids?
Yes.
Well, I was telling Mr. Sawyer today about it, and he says it's very bad. that psychologically it's all wrong.
Wrong? To be nice to children?
Well, he says that people who play Santa do it because when they was young, they must have done something very bad. And now they do something they think is good to make up for it. See? He calls it a guilt complex.
Frida, what else has he found wrong with you?
Oh, well, nothing much, I guess. Just that I hate my father. I didn't know it, but he says I do.
Excuse me.
Hey, ain't you gonna have lunch?
Later. Right now, I have an appointment with Mr. Sawyer.
What do you mean, breaking into my office like this?
Are you a licensed psychiatrist?
What business is it of yours?
I have great respect for psychiatry and great contempt for meddling amateurs who go around practicing it.
Oh, shut up.
You ought to be horsewhipped, taking a girl like Frida and filling her up with complexes and phobias.
I think I'm better equipped to judge that than you.
Just because Frida wants to be kind to children, you told her she has a guilt complex.
Oh, having the same delusion you couldn't possibly understand.
Oh.
And don't you wave that cane at me.
Either you stop analyzing Frida, or I'll go straight to Mr. Macy and tell him what a contemptible fraud you are.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here before I have you thrown out.
There's only one way to handle a man like you. Maybe this'll knock some sense into you.
Oh, my head, oh, no, oh.
Good day, Mr. Sawyer.
Miss Prone, give me the police. Give me Mrs. Walker. Give me the psychopathic ward in Bellevue Hospital.
You can see Mr. Kringle now, Mr. Gailey.
Thank you, nurse. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Fred.
Chris, I've been speaking to the doctors. They said they've given you some tests.
Oh, yes. Same old tests.
Except this time you failed to pass them. Chris, you deliberately failed. Why?
Why? Well, because I had great hopes, Fred. I had a feeling Mrs. Walker was beginning to believe in me. And now, now discover she's only humoring me all the time.
But this wasn't Doris's idea at all. Mr. Sawyer had you sent up here before she even knew about it.
But why? Why didn't she come to me and explain things?
Because she didn't want to hurt you.
Oh, well, it's not just Mrs. Walker. It's, well, now take Mr. Sawyer. He's contemptible, dishonest, and deceitful. Yet he's out there, and I'm in here. Well, if this is normal, I don't want it.
But you can't just think of yourself, Chris. What happens to you matters to a lot of other people. People like me who believe in what you stand for. And people like Susie, who are just beginning to. Chris, you're letting us down.
Well, Fred, maybe you're right. Of course you're right. I ought to be ashamed of myself. Let's get out of here.
Now, wait a minute. You flunked your mental examination, but good.
Oh, yes, so I did. Anyway, you're a lawyer. Fix it.
Hey, look, I can't just...
Now, I won't let you down, and you won't let me down.
Chris, now take it easy. Look, there'll have to be a hearing. If you're going to be committed, it has to be before a judge.
Well?
Well, if I can do anything at all, it'll have to be in a courtroom. Now, sit tight, Chris. I'll get an idea. I have to get an idea.
You, sent for me, Mr. Macy?
I certainly did, Mr. Sawyer. I brought my family to the toy department to see our Santa Claus, and our Santa Claus isn't there. He's in Bellevue.
Yes, Mr. Macy.
Because he's a lunatic.
Yes, sir. A lunatic.
Lunatic, my foot. Now, you listen to me, Sawyer. You get that case dropped right away, or you'll have another lump to match the one he gave you.
But it's out of my hands. Mr. Kringle goes to court in the morning.
Well, just see to it that he's back in the toy department by afternoon. Now get out of here.
Oh, Mr. Gailey. Mr. Gailey.
Yes?
I've been looking all over for you. I'm Mr. Sawyer.
Oh, so you're Sawyer.
Yes, I was just speaking to the court clerk, and he said you represent Mr. Kringle. Well, I represent Mr. Macy.
Oh, then I'll see you in court.
Oh, no. That's what I wanted to speak to you about. Now, Mr. Macy would like to drop the whole case right now. You see, we're most anxious to avoid any publicity.
No publicity, huh?
Hmm?
Well, that's very interesting.
Oh, well then you'll cooperate?
You know something, Sawyer? You've just given me the idea I've been searching for.
Oh, good.
If I'm going to win this case, I'm going to have public opinion, and plenty of it. And publicity is just the way to do it. Thanks. And so long, Sawyer.
Oh, Mr. Gailey, but Mr. Gailey!
Look at these newspapers, Chris. Here, Evening Dispatch. Doctors doubt sanity of Santa who launched Goodwill campaign.
Oh, my.
Daily Bulletin. Macy's Santa Claus to have lunacy hearing.
What's this one?
Now, that's the New York Express.
Is Kris Kringle crazy? Court case coming. Kitties cry calamity.
You've driven the United Nations clear back to page 5, Chris. Well, get a good night's sleep. We go before Judge Harper at 10 tomorrow morning.
Good night.
For a few weeks, a jolly elderly gentleman named Kris Kringle has been working minor miracles as Macy's Santa Claus. Now his sanity has been seriously questioned, and in a crowded courtroom, Judge Harper listens patiently as the assistant district attorney summons Kris to the witness stand.
Now, this is not a trial, Mr. Kringle. It's just a hearing, so you don't have to answer any questions. Now then, where do you live, please?
Well, it seems to me that's what this hearing will decide, isn't it?
Mr. Kringle, do you believe that you are Santa Claus?
Of course I do.
That's all, Your Honor. The state rests its case.
Well, Mr. Gailey.
Your Honor, Mr. Merrick contends my client is not sane because he believes he is Santa.
An entirely logical conclusion. Anyone who thinks he's Santa Claus is crazy.
Your Honor, you believe yourself to be Judge Harper, yet no one questions your sanity because you are Judge Harper. Do they?
Mr. Kringle is the subject of this sanity hearing, not I.
Well, Your Honor, I intend to prove that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Mr. Meyer, I thought you said this was a cut and dry sanity hearing.
Well, I thought it was, Your Honor.
In view of Mr. Gailey's statement, I have to review the entire background of this case. Court adjourned till tomorrow morning.
Hello, Doris. I'm sorry I'm late, but get ready. We're really going to celebrate tonight.
Oh, what are we celebrating?
Well, didn't you read the papers? Santa's mouthpiece throws bombshell in New York Supreme Court.
Oh, Fred, you're not really serious about this. You can't possibly prove that Kris Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, you saw Mr. Macy and Mr. Gimble shake hands. That wasn't possible either.
What does your firm have to say about it? Hayslip and McKenzie and the rest of them.
That I've jeopardized their prestige, and either I drop this impossible case or they'll drop me.
You see?
So I beat them to it. I quit.
Fred, you threw away a career because of a sentimental whim?
Well, I'll open my own office.
And what kind of clients will you get?
Oh, probably a lot of people like Chris who are being pushed around. That's the only fun in law anyway. Doris, look, don't you have any faith in me at all?
It's not a question of faith. It's just common sense.
But faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to. It's not just Chris that's on trial, it's everything he stands for. Human kindness and love and dignity.
Oh, Fred, listen. We've seen a lot of each other the last couple of weeks, and, well, I've become fond of you, and we've talked about some wonderful plans, haven't we? And then you do this? Go on an idealistic binge, throw away your security, and expect me to be happy about it?
And I expect too much. Is that it? Well, that's that, I guess. Good night, Doris.
Hello? Yes, this is Mr. Mara. Well, can it wait until tomorrow? I'm eating dinner. Who's being subpoenaed? Well, how do you think I feel about it? I'll see you tomorrow.
Who is that, dear?
R.H. Macy's been subpoenaed.
Oh, my.
Those reporters, they make me look like a sadistic monster who likes nothing better than to drown pussycats and tear wings off butterflies.
Shh, quiet, dear. Tommy's still awake.
Oh, yeah.
It'd just break his little heart if he knew what his daddy's doing.
I'm doing my job as assistant district attorney.
Well, I'm not so sure, but that I agree with them. Mr. Kringle looks like a very nice old man, and I don't see why you have to keep persecuting him.
I'm not persecuting him. I'm prosecuting him. And I even like the old man, too, but there's really nothing I can do about it.
You know something, Thomas? Sometimes I wish I'd married a butcher or a plumber.
Well, if I lose this case, it's very possible you'll get your wish. R.H. Macy. I wonder what he's going to pull tomorrow.
Proceed with the witness, Mr. Gailey.
Now then, Mr. Macy, if you recognize the defendant, please tell us who he is.
Why, Chris Kringle, of course.
And do you believe him to be of sound mind?
Sound mind? I wish I had a dozen like it.
Mr. Macy, you are under oath. Do you believe that man really is Santa Claus?
Well, now, that's rather a delicate subject.
Yeah, just think of those headlines tomorrow. Macy admits his Santa Claus is a fraud.
You keep out of this, Gimble.
What did you say?
Nothing, Mr. Mara, nothing.
Well, I wish you would. Is that man really Santa Claus?
Yes. In my opinion, he most certainly is.
Oh, my God.
Your Honor, there is no such person as Santa Claus, and everybody knows it.
Can you prove there isn't any?
I won't even try. I'll not waste this court's time with such childish nonsense. Your Honor, the prosecution requests an immediate ruling from this court. Is there or is there not a Santa Claus?
Well, now, the court will take a short recess to consider the question.
Hello, Henry.
Why, Charlie, what are you doing here?
Can't an old friend visit you in your chambers? And if you ask me, you've never needed a friend like you do now.
This Kringle case. I certainly don't see what they're making such a fuss about.
Henry, that's Santa Claus we've got out there on trial for lunacy. This case is dynamite, and you're coming up for re-election soon.
Charlie, do you know what happened last night? Martha brought the grandchildren over. They wouldn't kiss Grandpa. They wouldn't even talk to me.
Ah, you see what I mean? If you rule there is no Santa Claus, you'd better start looking for that chicken farm right now.
I'm a responsible judge. How can I seriously rule that there is a Santa Claus?
Because of what happens if you don't. The kids will read about it, and they don't hang up their stockings. Now, what happens to all the toys that are supposed to be in those stockings? Nobody buys them. The toy manufacturers have to lay off employees. By now, you've got the AFL and the CIO against you. Yes, and they're going to say it with votes, see? Oh, and the department stores are going to love you too. Yes, sir, Henry. And what about the Salvation Army? They've got a Santa Claus on every street corner. They take in a lot of money to help the poor. But go ahead, Henry. You go in there and rule there isn't any Santa Claus. But if you do, you can count on getting just 2 votes. Your own and that district attorney's out there.
1 vote, Charlie. He's a Republican. Oh, well, let's get this over with. The question of Santa Claus seems to be a largely matter of opinion. The tradition of American justice demands a broad and unprejudiced view of such a controversial matter.
But, Your Honor...
This court, therefore, intends to keep its open mind, and we shall ask for evidence on either side.
Okay, but the burden of proof clearly rests with my opponent. Can he produce any evidence to support his views?
If Your Honor please, I can. Will Thomas Mara please take the stand?
Who, me?
No, Thomas Mara, Jr. I believe he and his mother are both in court today.
Hi, Papa.
Oh, hi.
Tommy, do you believe in Santa Claus?
I sure do. Gosh, he gave me a brand new sled last year.
Now, what does Santa Claus look like, Tommy?
Well, there he is, sitting right over there.
Your Honor, I protest.
Overruled.
Tell me, Tommy, why are you so sure there's a Santa Claus?
Because my papa told me so. Didn't you, Papa?
Thank you, Tommy. You can go back to your mother now.
See you later, Papa.
You certainly will. Your Honor.
Don't forget, Santa Claus, this year I won a football helmet.
Don't worry, Tommy. You'll get it.
Mr. Kringle, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Your Honor, the state of New York concedes the existence of a Santa Claus. But in so conceding, we demand that Mr. Gailey stop representing and presenting personal opinion as evidence. I insist he submit authority to prove that Mr. Kringle here is the one and only Santa Claus.
Well, Mr. Gailey, are you prepared to show that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus on the basis of unprejudiced authority?
Well, Your Honor, no, not right now. I need a little time.
Why not now?
Tomorrow, Your Honor?
Very well. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Whew. Oh, brother.
Now come, Susan, finish your supper.
But I can't. All those things they're saying in the newspaper about Mr. Kringle and Mr. Gailey.
Well, they're having this trial because he says he's Santa Claus.
He's so kind and nice and jolly. He's not like anyone else I know. He must be Santa.
You know something? I think perhaps you're right.
Is Mr. Kringle sad now, Mother?
Oh, I'm afraid he must be.
Then I'll write him a letter. Maybe that'll make him feel better. I'll cheer him up.
Oh, postwoman! Would you mind taking this letter?
Yeah, lady?
Would you mind taking this letter?
Oh, sure. We're going straight down to the post office now. Okay, Louise, take it away. Well, what do you know, Louise? Another letter for Santa Claus. Hey, here's a new one. Instead of the North Pole, this kid's got it addressed to Chris Kringle, New York County Courthouse.
Well, you know, the kid's right.
Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. They got him on trial down there. He claims he's Santa Claus. And the DA claims he's nuts. Hey. Hey, I got an idea.
Yeah?
How many Santa Claus letters do we have down there in the dead letter office?
Oh, who knows? Must be 50,000. There's bags and bags all over the joint. Hey, you mean...
Yeah, well, Louise, why not? Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of them all? Wouldn't it? Boy, oh boy, look, Louise. As soon as we get to the post office, we go and see the supervisor. You know something? I bet we both get promoted.
And since the defense has been unable to submit one shred of proof that Kris Kringle is the one and only Santa Claus, and since tonight is Christmas Eve, I ask Your Honor that this hearing be terminated without further delay.
I protest. I do have evidence.
Yeah, 5 minutes ago you said you didn't.
During Mr. Marer's oration, the bailiff handed my client the evidence I refer to.
What evidence?
This letter, Your Honor.
Oh, yes, Mr. Kringle?
It's from Susan Walker. She believes in me. Oh, this letter means more to me than anything else in the world.
That letter, Your Honor, was delivered by the United States Post Office, an official agency of the federal government. The Post Office Department is one of the largest business concerns in the world. Last year, they did a gross volume of over $1 billion. And this year...
Your Honor, I'm sure we're all gratified that the post office is getting along so well. But what bearing has it on the sanity of that man?
My point is that the Post Office Department is a model of efficiency. Furthermore, the laws of this country make it a criminal offense to willfully misdirect mail or intentionally deliver it to the wrong party.
The state of New York is second to none in its admiration of the Post Office Department. We're very happy to concede Mr. Gailey's...
For the record, Mr. Mayor?
For the record. Anything to get on with this case.
Thank you. Your Honor, that letter just received by Mr. Kringle is positive proof that a competent...
One letter is hardly positive proof.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Come, Mr. Gailey. Put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor...
I said, put them on my desk.
All right, boys, bring them in.
Your Honor, what is this?
Empty those mail sacks on Judge Harper's desk. Bring them all in, or be fined for contempt of court.
Now, just a second here.
We'll do it, Your Honor. Through rain, through sleet, through courtrooms. Anywhere we deliver.
Mr. Gailey?
Your Honor, every one of those letters and every one of those mail sacks is addressed to Santa Claus. The post office delivered them. Therefore, the Post Office Department recognizes Kris Kringle to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed. And for heaven's sakes, get this mail out of my courtroom.
So, as soon as I got out of court, I came straight to Mason's to see you, Doris.
Oh, Chris, I'm so glad you won.
Oh. Well, we're having a big Christmas party at the Brooks Memorial Home tomorrow. I'd like so much to see you and Suzanne there.
Oh, we'll be there, Chris. Oh, Chris, couldn't you come to home now and have dinner with us tonight?
Now? Tonight? Me? My goodness, Doris, it's Christmas Eve.
True.
Frida, look who came all the way out here to the home, just for our Christmas party.
Chris, look, it's Mr. Macy.
Mr. Gimble, too. Oh, excuse me, Frida. Mrs. Walker and Susan have to leave now, and I need to see them before they go. So forgive me, will you?
But Susie, darling, you got so many presents.
Not the one I wanted. Not the one Mr. Kringle was going to get for me.
Well, what was it?
It doesn't matter now. I knew I wouldn't get it, but I thought he'd at least tell me why.
Susie? I'm sorry, Susie. I tried my best, but...
You can get it because you're not really Santa Claus.
Susan!
Just a nice old man like Mother said.
But I was wrong when I told you that. You must believe in Mr. Kringle and keep right on doing it. You must have faith in him.
But that doesn't make sense, Mother.
Oh, faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
What?
I mean, just because things don't turn out the way you want them at first, you've still got to believe in people. I found that out.
Hello, Doris.
Fred.
Mr. Gailey, Mr. Gailey.
Merry Christmas, Susie.
Gosh, you just get here and we're ready to leave.
Oh, I've been here.
Oh.
And if you're ready to leave now, I'd be happy to drive you home.
Before you go, here. Here's a map I made for you. You'll miss a lot of traffic. About 4 miles south of here, you'll see Ashley Avenue. Now that's the street you want. Ashley Avenue.
Thanks, Chris. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Fred. And to you, my dear. And to you, Susan.
I believe Mr. Kringle. I do. It's silly, I suppose, but I do.
Well, I don't understand it, Fred. The map Chris gave definitely says Ashley Avenue. We've been on Ashley Avenue now for...
Stop the car! Oh, stop the car, please!
Susie, what is it, darling? What's the matter?
There it is! The house!
Susie!
What in the world?
She's running into that house.
Well, at least there's no one home. It's brand new. It's just been built.
Yeah, for sale, it says. For sale.
What on earth is that child up to?
Susie. Hey, Susie.
Here I am, upstairs.
Now come right down. You know you shouldn't run around in other people's houses. You know, that's strange.
I'll say.
No, I mean this house. I've seen this house somewhere. I know I have. Maybe in a magazine or...
Mother, it's our house. It's the one I asked him for. Mr. Kringle.
Mr. Kringle?
I know it is. Oh, you were right, Mommy. You were right.
Susie?
Mommy told me that if things didn't turn out just the way you wanted them at first, you've still got to believe. And I kept believing. And you were right, Mommy. Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, now where are you going?
And back to see if there's a swing. There is one. Oh, there is one.
You told her that? About believing?
Well, you told me, Fred.
Well, the sign outside, for sale, huh? Well, we can't let her down, can we?
I never really doubted you. It was just my silly common sense.
Even makes sense to believe in me now. I must be a pretty good lawyer. I take a little old man and legally prove to the world that he's Santa Claus. Now, you know that couldn't be...
Fred.
What's the matter?
Well, there, in the corner, by the fireplace.
Oh, no. No.
It can't be. It couldn't.
A cane. Chris's cane. There couldn't be two canes like this anywhere in the world.
Silver handle and all.
Hey, you know something? Maybe I didn't do such a wonderful thing after all.
Before we meet again in this theater, the most joyful day in the year will have come and gone. There are, in our time, as in every time, a few foolish men who deride the spirit of Christmas, but in every country and in every time, they are overwhelmed by those who find in it the hope and happiness of the future, by those of us who believe in our hearts that there can be peace on this earth and goodwill among all men. On behalf of the Monarch old-time radio players, I wish all of you the happiest of holidays.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide bright. From now on, our worries will be Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be big. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, travel near to us once more. Through the years, we all will be together. If the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. A merry little Christmas now.
That was really fun, Natalie. Let's get out of here. We did it.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Well done.
Let's go. Come on. Come on, one more time. Let's hit the little bow. Here we go. With the director. Every turn. Take a little punch in your back. Good. Thank you. It was fun. Good. It was fun.
Natalie, that was amazing.
Rewrote a couple lines there.
Yeah, but it worked. You know, we just played off each other, and nobody knew the difference.
We knew where we were.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I better turn this off.
Here.